Welcome, travelers. Hello. Hello, hello. Give my computer a minute. Here we go. Cool. Hope everyone has been enjoying World Read Aloud. World Read Aloud Day. Yes. I will be reading my first 3 chapters of my story because that's what's written. It's called Adventures of a Magical Teacher, and this image here is a picture of said teacher. She has wild red hair. Yes, and she's carrying a phone. Yes, it is fun. My sister does art stuff. Yeah, so she does a lot of stuff for me. This one was just like a sketch she put together and then I coloured in, so that was fun. Anyways, I do have actual water too. So, I figured I'll just read a chapter first and then I'll check in with chat. I will try and be a bit animated. We'll see how that goes. It could be ridiculous, but you know, if we have fun, it's fine. Yeah, so I shall go ahead and start. Hope you enjoy. I do have this on World Amble and on Wattpad, so. I'll also have it up so you can read along if you want, or just listen. As I said, author's me. Title is Adventures of a Magical Teacher, and we have the prologue that I'm starting with. A hero and a teacher shaped from childhood. There's its own dating system, and so that's what starts here. Because the prologue's kind of like a sort of a short story about the past of the teacher, and my goal is every arc I'll have a different story set before the main story of one of the characters in the story. So mostly either the teacher or one of the 20 kids in her classroom. So I put the dates there for those things. Anyways, prologue. A hero and a teacher shaped from childhood. 25th cycle, year 38 of the nymphs, or month the 13th. Magenta threw the dodgeball and hit Steve in the abdomen with a force enough to make him stumble backwards. Just as she started to jump and cheer for her team's victory, Steve called out, "You're too much!" he cried. "You're not a beastkin after all." Magenta pouted. Clenching her hands, she replied, "Fine. I can still win tomorrow, even if I don't throw so hard." The next day's recess, Magenta frowned. Steve wasn't here. She found out that he hadn't even come to school that day. "Don't worry, he'll be back tomorrow." Magenta pursed her lips in reply. After school, she went to Steve's apartment. No one answered when she knocked. No one answered when she called out. No one was inside when she picked the lock. Magenta frowned, as it looked like no one had been home for a while. Steve's bag was open next to the couch, without any answers completed for yesterday's homework. She went to the park. Not there. None of the regulars had seen him today. She went to the ice cream shop. Not there. The lady lamented that she hadn't spied his beautiful eyes for a few days now. The man walking his dog hadn't seen him either. It's been so peaceful these last few days, till you showed up with your ice cream, missy. Finished licking her hand, Magenta waltzed into the library. Not there. Even the most fascinating and secluded corners were empty. She whispered her query to the librarian as she borrowed some books, but the librarian just shook her head. As the sun set, Magenta scurried home, making sure to ask every person she saw if they'd seen him. No luck. She collapsed onto the couch, not minding that her father was already sitting there. He's not anywhere! Dad, you said a man always has to fulfill his promise, right? She looked up at him with her big brown eyes as he readjusted himself. Yes, honey, what's this about? What does it have anything to do with why you're late? Magenta rolled her eyes. I would have called you if I was in trouble, Dad. My magic would tell you anyways, she huffed. Steve promised he'd play dodgeball with us today, but he didn't come to school. And he wasn't at his house, or at the park, or at the ice cream shop, or at the library. He wasn't anywhere. She moved as she spoke, causing her father further discomfort. He sighed, pulling her up to sit next to him. You should let us know where you are first. But Dad, Steve isn't anywhere. I'm so mad at him. Help me find him. Magenta Charles! Yelled her mother as the front door opened. Where have you been? Steve is missing, Mum. As Magenta spoke of her search, through dramatic recount, her parents looked each other in the eye. The park does seem less rowdy lately. A week or two isn't much. Still, if we don't help her find Steve, who knows what she'll get up to. We can at least call his family. As they called Steve's father, his uncle, the school, the hospital, his friends, and the police, they realised that something may be wrong. Being as late as it was, though, they only promised Magenta that they would search for him as soon as the sun rises. Not everyone can see in the dark like you. After struggling with her parents' decision, Magenta stayed in her room. Instead of sleeping, however, she created a magical map, colouring the air into a holographic shape of what she knew the city as. Although there were blank spaces, she crossed off the areas she'd been to, noting down what the people had said. When her parents came in the morning, they found her sprawled on the floor, her map still visible with pictures of the people she'd talked to and who her parents had talked to popping up here and there with what they'd said. Magenta's parents smiled at each other warmly before manoeuvring Magenta onto her bed. She groggily awoke before they could leave her rest in a proper position, though, and demanded chocolate milk. When I see him, I will drink it in front of him to show how mad I am. I won't share it. I won't. Her mother rolls her eyes and makes her a hot chocolate. Drink this for now. We'll deal with Steve's drink when we find him. As Magenta sips on her drink, her parents roam around the map she made, praising the efforts she put into it. First, they drove over to Steve's house. There was still no one there, even though the door was unlocked. Magenta ran out of the house and started asking neighbours if they'd seen Steve. None had. She updated her map. They drove to the police station and filed a missing persons case for Steve, as the police hadn't heard anything yet. From there, they had Magenta activate her map and started a systematic search through the streets. A number of parents of Magenta and Steve's classmates also lived in the area and were at home that day. A few of them messaged their children at school to see if they'd seen Steve. Worried no's came back. The homestay parents logged into their social media and continued to ask around. Many who Magenta spoke to now knew what was going on and gave her treats to encourage her to keep going, as well as giving her any information or suggestions of where to look. Magenta managed to keep her parents searching through the night, keeping in close contact with the authorities. As her parents got more and more tired, Magenta became more willful. As such, when they chanced upon locked doors without answer, and her parents forbade her from picking the locks, She teleported to the other side of the door. Her night vision also helped, where she only searched for children-shaped heat signatures. Sometime between midnight and dawn, the authorities called her parents with news of Steve. He was found near an explosion that had called an East Cities logging facility. They asked him to wait at the police station while they bring Steve. At the police station, when Magenta saw Steve, she started to cry. Whether she noticed the blue glowing sword he had in his hands or not, she walked up to him and punched his arm, berating, "You broke your promise!" She then walked back to her parents, promptly falling asleep in their arms. Back at school the next day, Magenta was as normal as her sleep-deprived self could be. When asked by every child in their year group about Steve, all she said about the matter was, "He broke his promise. I won't be asking him to play dodgeball with me when he comes back next week." And for the rest of the year, although Steve did play dodgeball with Magenta, she was never the one to ask him. After Steve came back to school, he gave a brief explanation of what happened to the class. "I was kidnapped when I was walking around alone. In the secret facility I was taken to, someone helped me and the other kids escape. There were bad things going on. So I took the matter to the Council of Turian. They will help look after me, and I'll work for them in the future to make sure nothing like what happened to me happens again." And he bowed. He didn't say much else about it to his classmates for a long while. Magenta, however, unlike the other kids, neither asked him nor awkwardly hid from the topic, only complaining he broke his promise and giving him suggestions to not be kidnapped again. Steve just grinned as she walked him home every day. When they entered the same high school, Magenta sighed. As she ignored his grinning by playing her anime games on her phone while they walked home, he started trying to recruit her into his hero party. He'd become a hero for the council after his kidnapping incident, and they capitalized on his part in exposing the tragedy of what went on in the secret facility. As the small incident was unrivaled to showcase a larger legal magic experimentation plot, including the kidnapping and killing of fairies, Steve ran the forefront of rebuilding the relations between races and saving the human race in Turian. But Magenta wanted none of that. She'd always wanted to be a teacher, and Steve sighed as he'd seen her single-mindedly pursue this. Every time he'd ask why in these conversations, she'd reply with, "I need to teach the next generation to keep their promises," and then she'd go back to squealing over her game while he'd facepalm. And that's the prologue. Thank you, Oscar. Yes, I do. It was quite interesting writing this prologue. Yeah, with Magenta's magic is she kind of has to work out herself what it is, because no one alive at the moment has the exact same skill set as she does. But she also doesn't live with magical beings. She lives within the humans. Despite it all by personal life. So as I look back on it, I see a lot of things and what's going to come out. One of the big things that I want to explore as I write this is it sounds kind of weird, but what are other ways of assessment at school than just exams all the time? And so one of the things I'm going to do as she teaches the classroom in the story is different forms of assessment or working with different kids. And because she has kids that are from all the different races in the room and they all have different peculiarities and stuff, like it's a very yeah, it's gonna be interesting. But like, because I'm a tutor, I see a lot of the individualities in students. So there will be bits here and there within everything that's sort of inspired by all sorts of stuff, and probably a lot of things I won't realise till after I've written it how that came out. But yeah. So yeah, that's kind of her backstory. And yeah, that was sort of the two purposes of the prologue, or her short stories there. She is magical, although she lives within humans. She could be a hero, but she chooses to be a teacher. And that's where the story sort of comes. But yes. So yeah, I shall have some water and then continue on with chapter 1. So from chapter 1, changes point of view, and we're now in Magenta's point of view. And so she's the narrator. But yes, thank you. Okay. Chapter 1, Classroom Dynamics. You'd think the deformation of your face would say that you don't like me, said Steve Brown, grinning his cursed grin. It had been a perfectly fine evening. I'm getting the feeling the reason I've had to change school is something you know about. I gripped the freshly cleaned door, wondering if I should slam it in his face. But he is leaning on the door frame. Fine, come in. Just tell me what kind of trouble you brought this time. I go to the kitchen and make tea for us both. Something thuds on the table. Looking over the kitchen bench, I see a folder. Why should it be trouble? Why aren't I a full-fledged teacher and just an aide? It wouldn't have anything to do with you setting fire to the gym. I roll my eyes. Those incidents weren't related. They were well aware of my experiments. They didn't expect you to raise the temperature of the air high enough to spontaneously combust the stage curtains. They agreed they needed to be replaced years ago. I couldn't care less for his response as I navigate the moving boxes filling the lounge room floor. Don't spill the tea. Good. I got them to the coffee table. He wipes aside before taking a sip. He sits so casually on the couch, you'd think he lives here. I guess that's childhood friends for you. Whatever. I gave myself the better teacup. As I look in the folder on the table, I see a class roster. Not one of the classes I was assigned to as an aide either. I put my teacup down as I see my name on the teacher's spot. I snatch it up, glancing at Steve. You're doing? You've always wanted a lively classroom. He sips the tea, looking away. I scan the basic information beside each precious student's face. Are they the candidates for the interracial research team? Steve nodded. See, you are the one bringing trouble. It was more than the fact that he was the human hero tasked to foster peace between races. He was also nosy, especially in my business. He shrugs. Would anyone else be able to handle it? I haven't taught a class yet. But you have been around the continent and met various people from every race. Yeah? And whose idea was that? Wait, hold up. I narrow my eyes. He's caught me in his trap from a while ago. I bite my lip. Drat. I'm not going to give them special treatment. Details are in the folder. I'll make sure they arrive in your classroom in 3 days. He gives me a warm, genuine smile. I shiver. Nodding, I round him up and push him out the door, grabbing his cup on the way. I've an introduction to prepare. Don't let me see you again. I catch an always the charmer as the door closes. How many protective barriers will I need to prepare? Anyone else would think it's just a normal day with their fellow humans. But I clasp the windsill of my classroom every time I see a non-yellow magic core in the students walking through the school's front gate. Steve assured me that the students of his class have all been briefed on their need to hide their true race. Looks like I won't have to worry about that, seeing as they're all arriving in their human forms. As the bell rings for the start of class, the last two boys run in. Good morning, students! So much colour fills my vision. Earthly browns swell within elves, reds activate and contract within beastkin, flowering colours explode from the nymphs across the classroom, blues wash purples through the mermaid, orange flickers within fairies, even the pale glimmer of yellow in human calls is beautiful. As you may have noticed from the differing magic in here, this isn't a normal human class. In fact, we only have one full-blooded human. The boy grimaces. He shouldn't be able to see the other kid's magic intensify as I said that, though. I shrug. I shall lead today's introductions to inspire friendship between us all. I pull out my phone and play the piece I had prepared. Projections of my family and my younger self dance around the front of the classroom to music. My name is Magenta Charles. That's Miss Charles to you. And this is my very first year of teaching. I'm only half human myself. I grew up in East City with my parents who've looked after me since young, as well as my perfect little brother, and came here to Mid-City for university. Projections of me receiving my high school certificate, bachelor's degree, and other certifications, as well as visual representations of my aspirations in the next selection to fill the front of the classroom. A black substance flickers through the half-dark elf's half-human eyes. Half-dark elf, half-human's eyes. She must look forward to being able to graduate. I was set to go back to East City. However, that punk of a hero, I reluctantly show a few photographs of Steve in awkward positions over the years, pulled some strings, and here we all are. I can't help my massive grin, nor the passion I hold oozing out into the visible wind patterns behind me. My very own full-fledged class. My eyes are watery, but clear. Welcome to the all races classroom. I hold my arms out wide as I send projections of fireworks across the room. I play their booming sounds too, at an appropriate volume, of course. I look to the back of the class where a couple of boys awkwardly sit. As the last two to arrive this morning, would Marcus or Callum like to start the self-introductions to the rest of the class? The boys look to each other before the human scrunches his face and nods at me. I wave him to the front of the class. As they all introduce themselves, I record their magic signatures, saving them in my phone. So this is an image of all the magical signatures. Yeah, so each race has a different colour that kind of matches them. So quite a few of the students are half one race, half another, which will bring its own problems in eventually. But yeah, so there's beastkin are red, humans are yellow, mermaids are blue and purple, naiads and dryads are either pink or blue, so they just kind of go everywhere. Dwarves are a subset of human, and then forest elf and dark elves, both elves. And then yeah, naiads are dryads, both nymphs. There's a few different beastkin. One of them is an experimental half-human, half-machine character, or cyborg, I guess. And he has his own story there. And fairies. Fairies are more brown and orange. Sorry, their main color is orange. Each race has a set main color, and that's what Magenta sees their magic as. So this is where they all sit in the classroom at the moment. I'm so glad to have you all here. Let's make this an amazing year. Never hesitate to ask questions, and remember that I will always protect you and be on your side. As a few of you have stated or inferred, this class is the first of its kind, with a representative from each race, or more, and therefore, the teaching will not be as structured or as strict as the normal human classes, due to many differences, but mostly because we are all working out how this works. I display one of the news articles from the fairy killings and children kidnapping incident 18 years ago. The fairy boy frowns. I know this was a hard time for many, and that it escalated so far isn't good. However, it has led you all to being my first group of students, and I'm already thankful that it is each of you. I am very much looking forward to the 2 years ahead. These 2 years here at school are to give you the foundation of learning for you all to go into university and take part in the first interracial research team. Or if you would prefer, go back to your hometowns and teach others the basics they may go to university and take part in the research team themselves. Even if you don't decide to go down either of these options, for the next 2 years, you'll be under my full protection and teachings. So, let's continue to get along, shall we? A scoff comes from the window side of the classroom. Let's start with a show of hands of who has gone to a school before. I lead the charge by raising my hand high. Many of the students follow suit. Only the forest elves and nymphs do not raise their hands. Leave your hands up if it was a human school. Most of the beastkin lower their hands. Keep them up if you've done all your schooling years from K to 10 so far in human school. Only a few hands remain. A relieved sigh escapes from the human boy. Okay. Well, good news. The first big event for this school is the athletics day at the end of next week. Right up my alley, Rai, the dragonkin boasts. Athletics, exclaimed a dryad. Aren't we supposed to learn words and things? A twig pops up through his green hair. Why learn words when we can play? The naiad muses, drawing rivers from her desk on the floor. Oh, I wipe the water up from the floor with some wind magic. Yes, we will learn all sorts of things, from the alphabet to calculus and research techniques. Indeed, the next big event inside the school are the testing games happening halfway through the year. Inside the school? Queries the frogkin, adjusting his glasses as his hands secrete a minor noxious mucus. I nod. We'll get to that. For now, I'm going to go through a very quick introduction of school and what there is to expect. So, pay attention. Also, I pick up a pen and notepad off a desk. Using this pen and paper on each of your desks, write down any questions you have as I go through. Draw pictures if you can't write, else just hold on to the most important question for when I'm done. Alright? I look each student in the eyes. Most nod or stare back at me. As long as they pay attention to me, it's all good. Please stay in the seats you're in for the rest of the schooling year. The youngest two nymphs immediately switch seats. Okay. I'll let you know how the school works. I want to tell them everything. What a student is, what a teacher is, what lunch and recess are, the topics we'll learn over the next 2 years, why we wear a uniform. Should I tell them about that time I was in high school and blew up the science lab because I didn't listen to my teacher and used the wrong amount of chemicals? I do. That's why you should always pay attention to all of your teacher's instructions, alright? All of them. Except for that one time when my substitute teacher was wrong, made me stand outside the class the whole day holding a book above my head for correcting her, and she got in trouble with the principal and I was given a free lunch. Wait, I said that out loud. Maybe I shouldn't have told that story. You'll all get a free lunch today, so just enjoy that. As I take a breath before talking about all the school facilities, the bell rings for recess. I pout. A knock comes from the door. That'll be Miss Greer's. Opening the door let in a brown-haired lady carting a large box. I stay behind her. Hello class, I'm the school nurse, Miss Greer's. So please feel free to come to me with all of your troubles. Although I usually deal with physical injuries, my minor was psychology, so the school is happy to pay me for counselling you guys. Also, I do know who and what you all really are, so if you want to complain about Miss Charles here, you only have me or the principal, really. She smirks. Either way, we were unsure of your preparations for high school, so we've brought recess for all of you. Putting the box on my desk, I asked the half-fairy, half-dryad to hand out the apples and muesli bars to everyone. Miss Greers whistles as she watches the girl fuse with the air and send off the food simultaneously to each desk. Yeah, that's awesome. However, it is something that can't be done anywhere else in the school. Miss Child has prepared this classroom early today, though. I nod. So in here is fine. Miss Greers helps me go through all the classroom things and starts to figure out where each student is up to in their schooling. The lunch bell rings, and after warning them to stay in human form, we release them into the school. All but one leaves the classroom. David, the only one who fell asleep in my class. The normal swelling of the elven earth magic was a very slow staggering in him. I wonder if that's because of the rabbitkin side of his genes. I turn to Miss Greers. Am I that boring? She looks to David, then rolls her eyes at me. I assure you, boring is not the word to describe you. I hope she's right. Not that she's often been wrong in the last 4 years I've known her. I wonder how everyone else is doing. Pulling open a map of the school from my phone, I use it to open portals around the school in places students won't see. From one bush, I hear growling. Oh? A beastkin boy from a different class is heading in the direction of Ryu and Lee, the strongest 2 beastkins of my class. All 3 are growling. I wriggle my toes. As the boy approaches, he holds up his hand in front of him, staring Ryu in the face. Arm wrestling match. Ah ha 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 ha. The growling from Ryu is replaced by loud laughter. I wince. Ryu grabs the boy's hand. 1, 2, 3, fight! Red sweeps through both boys' arms. The red magic of my student is much thicker and brighter. Miss Greers grips my shoulder and shakes her head as I start to put my hand through the portal. My student wins. Ah ha ha! Good meeting. The boy bows his head as he massages his hand. Bastion Collier. Eh eh. Ryu Marus. The boy, Bastion, opens his eyes wide. I see, then grins. An honor. Lee scoffs. These beastkin sure do like to scoff. I check the other portals. Normal human stuff. Good. Oi! It's the portal near those 2 beastkin again. I see more red. Another beastkin? A stocky female points at Ryu. Here, after the bell rings for the end of school, I challenge you to a duel. Oh no. Ha! You're on! I can hear the excitement in Ryu's voice. Oh no! Dun dun dun. That was chapter 1. Agree, they'll manage very well. Yes. So it's fun writing from Magenta's point of view, but it's like trying to point things out, but also in a way that Magenta doesn't understand what is going on. Is like a few edits. Really, when a teacher's on, yes. Yes, teaching is fun. Cool. Okay, so I should have enough time to do chapter 2, hopefully. Oh, I got more pictures. More new characters, yay! I have so many characters. Well, it's a piece of writing. Okay. Chapter 2, Let's Be Human. Let's talk about Athletics Day, I state. I try not to jump at Lee, the arrogant war beastkin, as he smacks, or at Ryu, the overbearing dragonkin, as he growls. I see the red in their bodies fire up, and those 2 are just the most obvious ones. Another 6 students ignite with red coursing through their bodies. Stay calm, self. Stay calm. I hear the pounding of heavy footsteps, followed by a knock on the door. Right on time. I open the door. Marcus? I look to the back of the classroom, and there sits Marcus, the full-blooded human. Looking back to the door, I tilt my head. Color-wise, they're almost the same, both in hair and magical signature. But this guy is taller with an athletic build. This is the cause. Oh, so you're Trevor, Marcus' older brother. I nod, seeing Steve from the corner of my eye. I face the class again. A look of shock hangs over half the students' faces as they look from the back of the classroom to the front. I smirk before checking past the guys to see down the hallway. Not here yet. Marcus, come up here. I wave him up as I take out my phone and open the camera. I try to take some photos of just the 2 brothers, but it is difficult when Steve tries to enter them too. What, brother? They're twins, right? Yells a student. A few nods of agreement and a snicker. This is kind of a sketch. Idiot! It's easy to see who's older. He's slightly taller and more muscled. A few hums of agreement from the muscle-headed boys ensued. I ignore the class gossip over the similarity of Marcus, his brother, and their cousin Steve, as I inspect the three humans. Although they look similar, they have distinct differences in their magic signatures. Marcus and Trevor share the same faint yellow cores. However, Trevor's was larger and at a lower position in his body. The glow from his core had a larger fade area, and flecks of darker yellow would pop up here and there. Steve's core was the same body position as Marcus' core, but had a couple of dark purple protrusions from it, as well as having the faint yellow around his eyes become a faint blue. Regardless, they were all distinctly human. Hold up, why is the hero here? A student asked. I've also come with my cousin to help you all with training for Athletics Day, Steve grinned. I hear footsteps down the hallway. Yes! Okay, class! I clap my hands to get everyone's attention. A little infusion of wind magic to make it louder helps. I've asked some human males to help teach us all how to act as humans for Athletics Day. If we are to take part, we'll need to keep our racial magics out of the way. Steve, you all know. Trevor is Marcus' brother, and my brother Nate is coming now. I lower my voice. Be nice to him. A few students shiver. Was infusing a chill in the air a little too much? The door opens. Brother! I exude warmth. I drag my brother Nate to the front and center of the classroom, but can hardly get a sentence of praise and adoration out before my class is in an uproar at the difference in our looks. I pout. Just because we don't share the same looks, race, or blood doesn't mean Nate and I aren't full-blooded siblings. I'm given a lot of blank looks. Just before I'm able to launch into my super speech that highlights the greatness of my brother, Miss Greers comes in bringing a stack of paper. She looks at me and shakes her head. The look she shows me says I'm making trouble. I'm just trying to show how cool he is, I mutter. Nate laughs. It's fine. Before we get started in practicing for Athletics Day, I'm handing out these invitations for your parents to come and enjoy and participate in the day. We expect them back tomorrow with the intention of your parents and or guardians. Miss Greers hands half the pile to Trevor to hand out, bustling around the classroom. I frown, sidestepping away from Steve as he tries to talk. It's unnecessary for my parents to come to such a small human festivity. Tercy, the elven princess, raised her nose as she received the invitation. Oops, that's Trevor. It's good you see it as a festivity, but at least raise your hand in class when speaking. Trevor cuts in as he steps back from giving her the form. I nod. He knows what he's talking about. Although, have we gone over raising hands to talk in class yet? Is it necessary to be so explicit? I hear a chuckle from Ryu and turn to see the red rush in brief spurts through his body. He opens his mouth. We'll bring the whole limit to 3 family members, I shout. 3 fingers are now right in front of Ryu's face. I step back a bit to see a raised eyebrow on Trevor's face. I miss my timing to tell Ryu to wait with his hand up after I call on him to speak. We'll be playing dodgeball, won't we? The adults, that is, Steve helpfully points out. Sister, control your face, my brother whispers to me. Cute that he worries for me. Yes, the parents versus teachers dodgeball match is happening at the end of the day. I turn to Steve. I'll cream you for sure this time. Steve gives a hearty laugh. It's been a while since I heard that one. I'll have Trevor with me this time. He pulls Marcus' brother closer to him. His well-trained physique is no match for my strategic game. I look at Steve, trying to hide my burning desire to defeat him from the kids. I at least have that much awareness. I hear someone whisper, asking if I'm actually a beastkin. I pretend I don't hear my brother sigh. I straighten my face and turn to the class. Okay, kids. As I said earlier, we'll be training for Athletics Day. Less about winning, more about appearing human. It might be a strange way to start the year, but this is the normal thing for a human school, so we will take part. Do they know what they're up for? Trevor asks. I rub my hands together as I look to the students. I brought these guys in to give you some hands-on training. As humans themselves, they are the best help for you. Get used to having around for the next 2 weeks. I pull Miss Greers towards my desk, leaving space for the kids to exit the classroom. Boys will be heading outside with the men to the space between the oval and the school gym. Why not the oval? A beastkin will always want a place where they can show off their strength better, huh? Because you will need to be working on remaining on your human form, and that place is the only one not seen by any other classroom. The principal can still see it from her office though, so behave. I look each boy in the eye, one at a time, before sending them off. Remember, stay in your human forms. Okay, boys, off you go with the men. They jostle behind Steve, with a few stragglers rounded up by Trevor and Nate. I close the door behind them. I'd love to gush over my brother, but I can see Miss Greers giving me a don't be troublesome look. It does look more intimidating when she's in her blouse and work pants. I shake my head and turn to the students. For now, they're my priority. Who has seen or participated in a human athletics day? 4 out of the 9 girls had done so. Miss Greers gave a small smile of relief. Pulling back her face to calm, she started writing each event on the blackboard. Running, 50 metres, 100 metres, 200 metres, 500 metres, relay. High jump, long jump, discus, shot put. Novelties, dress-up run, egg and spoon race, sack race, 3-legged race, beanbag throw, class shouting rally, teachers versus parents dodgeball. I'll leave them on the board for the boys to see later. Steve should tell them, but it would be good to remind them later as a wrap-up for the end of the day. There are many events. Who likes to run or would be willing to run in front of most of the school? The 2 nymphs start giggling, while the half-fairy raises her hand. The Snake King also raises her hand, after a nudging from the quarter breed. Tursi arrogantly raised her head, stating, "Any elf would surely not be inferior to any human, nor be intimidated." Her elven friend backs her up with nodding. The mermaid and half-dark elf, half-human friends also raise their hands, though the half-dark elf starts gushing about the sights of her last athletics day. 2 girls running for top spot, but one hadn't checked their shoelaces, and by the last third of the track they fell, arms wide like a harpy's wingspan. She flaps her arms around unevenly, and pulled the second go down. Everyone else behind just couldn't help but tumbling into them. She finishes by collapsing on the floor. The nymph's laughter increases. A simple yes will suffice, I tell her. The half-dark elf, half-human shakes her head, sighing. If you don't want to be entertained, I guess I can hold it in. We're here for learning, not entertainment, I reply. It's a pretty good number who can run, Miss Greers comments. I nod. Most of the girls seem like they'll be okay. But I raise my voice to be heard over the chattering and giggling, as I do have to ask this. Who of you can run without the help of your magic and unique racial skills? At least 4 of the girls are fine with that. I see Tursi's magic flow faster, her friend's magic flow increasing behind her. The Naiad just started blowing bubbles with the Dryad, popping them with thorns she has manifested. Awesome. We won't be using magic on Athletics Day. The boys are using the secluded oval space today, and some of the other classrooms are in the hall and basketball courts, so we'll just stay here for this afternoon. Looking at the younger nymphs rile up, I figure we could start with a novelty. I whisper to Miss Greers. Do we have to stay in the classroom? I open a portal. She glares with the intensity of a snakekin. We do. No taking students out of the school without permission. I close the portal, sighing. Our plan was to demonstrate the novelty events. However, I can see that the kids are just getting more and more restless as the day goes on, especially those who haven't been in a school environment before. I ask the students to help us clear the desks to the back of the room. Let's do some warm-up stretches. Miss Greers stands a step behind me and 3 steps to the right as I demonstrate some stretches and she follows. We get through 3 stretches before I can see colours seep across the room. I pull out some Hessian sacks from a portal as Miss Grizz asks, "Who knows what a sack race is?" A few of the girls nod. I see. As much as I want to jump in the bag and race Miss Grizz, I have been looking forward to being a teacher for a long time. The Hessian sack is here. I raise it up to my eyesight level. It's big enough to fit a person inside. As such, this is a race where every participant is given a sack, and after getting inside of it, will basically jump with their sack to the finish line. I step into the sack and jump forward 3 times. I am really reining myself in. Normally, I'd be asking Miss Grizz to race me immediately. During athletics day, anyone in the sack race will jump just like I did for 50 meters, racing other students, I explain. As I step out of the bag, I turn to the class. I'll get you to just go from one wall to the opposite wall. I have enough sacks for everyone to have a go. Then we'll discuss who'd like to race next week. Miss Grizz and I help them line up and get into the bags. The 2 young nymphs would look so similar if it weren't for their differences in their magic. I'm most worried about them. I don't understand how everyone else doesn't see or feel it. It's like it's spilling out everywhere and I need a bucket to contain it all. I'll just have to work out how to get them interested in school. Then maybe they'll learn to contain their magic within themselves. This isn't the forest after all. Ready? Get set? Go! I watch as they jump. Half the girls jump as I asked. The mermaid has bubbles of purples run through her legs as she takes each jump. I make a note of the sight in the storage in the air connected to my phone. As the half-dark elf jumps, I can see her using a small bout of magic as she increases each bounce from the now bouncy ground. I frown, but I'll wait till I finish. The way the flow of ribbons inside her move as she is using the magic is interesting. They're more directed, almost as if pursuing the ground she touches. It's close, but the half-dark elf wins. She laughs. I am the superior sack racer! Not without using magic, you're not. I stare into her eyes. No magic next time. She shrugs her shoulders, muttering, not like the humans can see it. Doesn't matter. I shake my head once. I asked you not to use magic. She sighs, then nods. Yes, miss. I won't use magic next time. No magic as you jump this time, girls. I grin, encouraging them to do well. Miss Grizz and I ready them all again. Ready? Get set? Go. I'm not as loud as I was before. No one uses magic for the first few jumps. Good. The nymphs have quite small jumps, though I'm unsure if that's because they are short or if because nymphs don't usually jump, especially the dryad. Hers are smaller. The nymphs giggle and veer off course, jumping around the classroom. As the snakekin wins the race, I clap my hands with a magically sound-infused bang. Stop! The nymphs fall over in laughter, but the rest of the girls look to me. Well done for all of you two. Well done for all of you, except the 2 on the floor. They try to cover their mouths to stop the laughter. Punishment for those who don't respect the rules of the teacher. You two? I look into the nymph's eyes one by one. Take everyone's sacks and sit onto the blackboard to fold them nicely. Okay? They manage to stifle their laughter and off to nod, rolling out of their sacks. The rest of the girls step out of the sacks and hand them to the nymphs. I turn to the snakekin. Charlize, have you and Jade done the 3-legged race? They nod, so I give them a Velcro band and get them to show the others how to put it on and walk together. Everyone, partner up and give it a shot. I hand out bands to the pairs. The 2 elves are one pair, and the mermaid and half-human, half-duck elf are another pair. That just leaves the half-fairy dryad. We'll race with Nada! The nymphs yell in sing-song. No, I respond. No partaking until the sacks are folded and given to me. Miss Grizz can be her partner for now. They are the same height, so that aspect should be fine. I move a couple of tables with my wind magic to create some lanes at the starting wall. This isn't a race today, but just to get you to feel the way this novelty game is run. Step slowly to the wall on the other side of the room, then turn around together. Try going a little faster back to the start if you think you can handle it. I signal and let them go. Thankfully, no one falls. though the half-human dark elf and mermaid nearly did, rushing as they were. Miss! I turn to the chalkboard and see the two nymphs holding the folded sacks with pouts on their faces. I collect them with a raised eyebrow. Follow the rules of the game this time? They nod, still pouting, but at least their magic isn't swelling further outside of them than usual. Shall we all try the beanbag throwing game? The girls stop pouting and nod eagerly, running over to the half-fairy dryad, Nada. Everyone, stay in one spot. We practice throwing and catching. The girls are throwing beanbags to each other, attempting to hold their stance in one position for 3 minutes at a time, without phasing any part of their body. How the two youngest nymphs were able to get in this class is a wonder, muttered Miss Greers. I, however, added the latest data of the phasing of the girls into my phone. Before lunchtime, they had been able to last at least half an hour without reverting to their phasing nymph selves. After lunch, however, it seems as if their minds have wandered with their human transformations, and are now not only on top of their phasing, but constantly trying to disrupt others in the name of fun, or boredom. I looked at the clock in the classroom. Everyone, let's stop here and put all the tables back. They did so, and I reminded them to take home their things and what to bring for tomorrow. The boys had trudged in exhausted, more than a few collapsing on the desks. Raya was melting it as ungracefully as any muscle brain would over his desk. Maybe that's enough to stop him. I remind the students of the events for Athletics Day, pointing them out on the board and giving a short expectation of what the human averages are in terms of times to finish would be. I see Stephen take notice. At least there's one. Two of the girls nod, but they're the ones who've experienced it, so I'm not too worried about them. Raya growled until the end of day bell sounded. Then, with a Dragon King grin, he sped to the oval. Lee followed. Nope, not enough. As the other kids are phasing out of their human forms, I turn to Miss Greers. Help me get them home. She rolls her eyes. Yes, yes. I see Trevor, Nate, and Steve awkwardly standing outside the classroom door. Help me get them to Maggie's van. I shove him inside the classroom before opening up a portal to the inside of Miss Greer's van. Then I rush to the oval, only to see them already fighting. Is she holding a bamboo stick? Oh, is she holding bamboo sticks? Who? That girl is Shiana. She's a bit impulsive. Forgive her. Two human girls, also students of this school, block my way as they watch the fight. One sips on a juice box. Just past them is Lee. Lee? He's growling softly. I see Ryu's red magic raging within his body. It's much brighter than anything else I've seen today. Shiana and Ryu leap towards each other, Ryu slashing a stick in half, him getting hit on his back as they pass each other. They trade blow for blow. Ryu starts to go mad with the fun of it all, psyching himself up, berserker style. I'm done. Shiana stops, stands, drops her weapons. Confusion passes through Ryu's face, for a moment. Then he too stops and laughs. She bows. Before I can yell at Ryu, Lee grabs Ryu's shoulder, a burst of red appearing through his hand. One of the girls congratulates Shiana while the other stares at me, slapping through her straw. It's just a beastkin thing, miss. You can't stop her. I know. The last time I tried to stop a beastkin fight, it didn't go well. I look up again to see Shiana with her remaining stick pointed at Lee. You! I challenge you to a duel. Ryu switches places and pushes Lee forwards. Give her a shot! He jumps backwards. Lee sighs. Alright. Breathing in, Shiana bows her head, also getting into position. She strikes. Lee steps away to claw at her from behind, splintering her remaining bamboo stick as her secondary attack turns to a defensive counter. A yowl from Lee as he jumps back, regrouping. He lunges forwards and she pivots to the side, hissing. They clamber on and around each other back and forth, ending with Lee holding her neck to the ground. I'd advise you not to challenge me when you're already attired from a previous battle. Shiana raises her hands. My mistake. I concur. Lee scoffs as he settles down, getting off of her and walking to Ryu. Boys! I didn't mean to sound that sinister. Just go talk to your Beastkin girls. Ray laughs, red racing through his legs. Oh, no you don't. He runs. Lee follows. I chase. I'm not called the Red Streak for nothing. Shifting the air to give myself the aerodynamic advantage while bringing the wind to oppose and guide the boys, I chase them to Miss Greer's van. Steve has the door open for them, slamming it shut just before I get inside. Not so fast now, he asks me. I narrow my eyes at his irritating grin. He shrugs. They are the strongest beastkin of their generation. Running through storms is kind of their thing. I don't bother answering as I walk to the other side and sit next to Miss Greer's in the front of the van. Let's take them home. I follow them all to the front entryway of their city homes and activate a portal marker in my phone. This way, next time I can directly send them home if needed. Let's keep potential disasters to a minimum, shall we? Da da da! And that is chapter 2. I realise there's a few mistakes in there, but oh well, that's alright. Hello, Dot Tolin. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Cool. Just trying to show her. Yeah, she, Magenta is adopted. But she has like a younger brother who's like 6 years younger-ish. I can't remember exactly, but yeah. So she gets on quite well with him. Maybe a little too well sometimes, but anyways. We'll work that out as I write it. Limit to 3 family members. Yes, Beastkin have they have this thing about strength, and so they're constantly in their communities have all these different strength contests throughout the year. So because it's Athletics Day, it's kind of related to that. So initially they're all like, yeah, I'll bring like my whole family, because they'll all be excited. And Magenta's like, no, we need to try and keep this to a minimum. But yes, so that is my story, and now we will be heading on to visit the Lady Wright. Just check if she's up. Yeah, so thank you all coming and enjoying. It's been like my first stream since last year, so I was like, okay, cool. I remember how to do this, right? And this is... I love this picture. One day, when this turns into a movie. Hello, miss. Where am I going? Yes, that's cool. I didn't know how long that would take me to read. So that's good. That's good. We shall head over to the Lady Wrights. You may have overslept. Just coming to the end of my stream. We will be heading over to the Lady Wrights as she she is the next reader in our Twitch Read Train to celebrate World Read Aloud Day. Have a wonderful time and travel on. Keep traveling through the realm of stories. Hashtag Plaintel. So that's good. Yes. We'll continue to enjoy. Thank you for coming, guys, and listening to my story.